Script. Okay. Uh, Namaste and welcome. This is your host Vidura, and today we have with us Navroop Singh. Sir is an IPR attorney practicing before Supreme Court and Delhi High Courts. He is an avid reader, commentator, and geopolitical analyst with his insights on geoeconomics and how it impacts the world. He is a celebrated author too of three books, including The New Global Order and The Great Reset. Firstly, I wish to congratulate Sir on his recent launch of Niti Shastra podcast platform on 14th of January 2025, that is on the occasion of Makar Sankranti. Sir has been blogging on Niti Shastra since March end 2023, and his podcasts on other platforms are now available in Spotify, Apple Podcast, and even YouTube channel called Niti Shastra India. As the founder of Niti Shastra platform, Sir is collaborating with Ms. Himja Parekh for his venture, where the idea is to blend Indian wisdom to foreign policy, international relations, and statecraft. So do follow Sir's platform on nitishastra.substack.com and his podcasts across social media for regular updates. Once again, sir, I welcome you for this first episode of the Niti Shastra podcast.
Thank you so much, Vidura. It's been a pleasure, and that was a wonderful introduction.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. My pleasure. So, given the landslide victory of Trump in 2024 elections in USA, suddenly certain big events got triggered in the global arena, and soon, that is tomorrow, Trump will be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. So, as you can see, there is already a kind of a very nervous atmosphere globally due to the upcoming Trump administration or the presidency. So, in light of this, our audience want to understand that what kind of effects, what would America look like from the year 2025? So, on this, my first question to you would be, how will be the Trump 2.0 in terms of geoeconomics and trade tariffs, which he's talking about and have talked a lot during his campaign?
Vidura, very interesting question. Trump 2.0 virtually heralds a new era. So far, what we saw was military wars, lingering of conflicts in Gaza, war in Ukraine, civil war in Syria. But as we got closer to the American election, things started moving very fast across the world. In various theaters, like be it in Syria, be it Lebanon, be it in Ukraine, or even in, Gaza, the Israel war in Gaza. And, before we discuss the geopolitics, which is obviously the Trump is going to be a big X factor, I guess the biggest impact of Trump administration 2.0 is going to be on geoeconomics, which people are unable to, make sense of that what is coming. Markets are nervous across the world. The dollar index is rallying. The crude is going up because of new sanctions imposed on Russia by outgoing Biden administration. And you have the emerging markets, currencies like yuan and rupee and across Asia, virtually going down and devaluation is on virtually. Now, this presents, we are in a very unique era. And my sense is that from now on, from the year 2025 onward till 2029, by the time Trump presidency ends and the new president is sworn in, you will, this 4 or 5 years or this half of this decade is going to be totally about geoeconomics and restructuring of economic supply chains across the world.
Interesting.
Yeah. The first thing which is going to happen to is, Trump is going to impose, restart his trade war. But before, he starts, before we talk about the trade war, we need to understand what is the history of it. Like I have in my earlier book in 2022, in Great Reset, gave a long introduction on the trade wars and how trade wars lead to military wars. And the prime example was after World War One, when America imposed tariffs on Italy, on Italy's Fiat cars. Mussolini retaliated in Italy and said, we are going to impose double tariffs on Ford Motors. And basically, it led to the rise of Italian nationalism, okay? Nationalist populist movements, which culminated in the rise of the Nazi party in Germany and the fascist party in Italy, which is why you see the sudden upsurge in the right wing in Europe, be the AfD in Germany, which is going to polls, right? So this is going to be one impact of the trade war, and trade wars have always been followed by the military wars. There are numerous substances in here, instances in history. People who do want to, I don't want to recount that. They can read it in my book in 2022 in the introduction part. Now, Trump administration began the trade war in 2017. Biden continued it with the tech war. He doubled down on it. The passing of the CHIPS Act, the passing of the Inflation Reduction Act. Biden doubled down, imposing, not allowing NVIDIA, ASML, TSMC to sell 2nm, 4nm chips to China, right? Putting a State Department bar on them, and further asking them to, if they shift their factories from Taiwan to China, and then America will subsidize, and nearly $300 billion of semiconductor chip investment is happening in America at this minute, as we talk. So this is, first Trump started it, Biden doubled down with a tech war, and they haven't withdrawn the tariff. And now, once again, Trump 2.0 is back upon us, right? So what should we expect? Trump has already, told that the Chinese that I'm going to impose 10 to 60% tariffs on China on various goods, right? Those goods will virtually range, could range from Chinese semiconductor products, raw materials, or even your renewable energy sources, or EV parts in China, right? Or, various other things which China exports to America, right? Which is why the coming of Trump actually made China has started devaluing its yuan, which is falling. Plus, the Chinese Communist Party, to affront the Trump tariffs, is now virtually put in 8 trillion yuan of stimulus, right? In the month of October, to boost its economy, domestic consumer economy. Because naturally, if Trump starts to impose tariffs on China, the exports are going to take a hit. If the Chinese exports are going to take a hit, how will the Chinese economy move ahead? It has to be via either they tie up with other powers in the world, open their markets, or they have to, focus on domestic consumption, which very interestingly, the World Bank has been saying on China to do this from 2012, and CCP so far has been unable to do it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So one of the reasons this is happening is because the Chinese debt bubble is like the Chinese high-speed railway is under debt of 8 trillion yuan. And also you have the state-owned enterprises which were granted by licenses by the shadow banking system, which fueled a debt bubble, which is why you had the Chinese real estate giant like Evergrande file for bankruptcy, and the Garden Reach, which is one of the largest property developers, it defaulted on its bond payments in October 2023.
So overinvestment on infrastructure by China sort of, affected or let's say burst their credit debt bubble.
Yes, exactly. See, now this is the classical problem of a middle income economy, which wants to go into a high power economy.
Hmm.
There have been only two instances where two countries have managed to escape the middle income trap. One is China, the other is South Korea. But anyway, coming back to the question of how the Trump 2.0 is going to, so we see that the Chinese are preparing for Trump 2.0, not only by a stimulus, but also or by boosting domestic consumption, but
Yeah.
also they sought a detente with India, okay, in
Right.
Ladakh. In
Yeah.
Ladakh, one of the reasons for detente was because India is a huge market and India is running a trade deficit of $100 billion with China, which has increased from $40 billion when Mr. Modi came into power, Prime Minister Modi came into power, to almost $100 billion, right? And which is why you are going to see that, which is why the Chinese are also saying that Indian firms are, like, welcome to come and invest in China. And you have certain Indian conglomerates who are in trouble with some American Department of Justice, right? So
Yeah.
they also might seek an alternative funding arrangement from either Middle East, Abu Dhabi, sovereign wealth funds, or even through Hong Kong, Macau, or China, right? So technically, there's a lot of flex which has happened in last 3-4 months just before the Trump administration is coming. So one part of Trump is going to be tariffs. The tariffs are going to also be imposed on Germany and France. German auto industry, French wine industry.
Hmm.
In return, Ursula, who's the European chief, has virtually said, that we can actually, like, we'll import more American LNG,
Yeah.
right? And
To
that probably would be the terms which Trump will set. Oh, import more American LNG, allow access to Tesla, right? Of Elon Musk. Then probably I can smoothen out the tariffs, right? Similarly, he threatened tariffs on Canada and Mexico, 25%. The obvious deal is the border deal, migration, border. And, like, hilariously, he called Trudeau as Governor Trudeau, and Canada as a 51st state,
right.
51st state of America. So that was a hilarious thing. And Trudeau, happened to resign, right? And go because of that spat with, Trump administration on tariffs, incoming Trump administration.
Correct. That will be a double whammy for him, given what all sort of issues which Canada is facing, was facing under his prime ministership. So I have to chip in here. One thing I don't understand is that what will Trump gain to go for tariffs against America's allies as well? You know, how does it make sense when it comes to American geopolitical order?
See, now, like, it's a very interesting question, and I'd love to answer it. Okay. You know, let's talk about Trump's agenda, a fact sheet on agenda. What agenda does he have? I know that will make very clear to your listeners, and the listeners on on our platform, Niti Shastra, right? That first of all, he's likely to, the agenda is what? America first, make America great again.
Yeah, right.
So let's discuss one by one. Okay. And first of all, Trump will likely to pass an executive order which will resume the Keystone Pipeline. He's saying oil lobby ko main promote karunga. I'll promote the oil lobby, oil and gas drilling by USA. Now that will make America self-sustainable in oil. Now, what
Okay.
that does is, what that will do is, that will put America, in a comfortable position when it can pump its own gasoline and oil into its own economy. It does. So the oil prices, the inflation will immediately go down.
Hmm.
There'll be a cascading effect.
Yeah.
Now, if American inflation goes down and America is able to pump its own oil, the crude oil prices across the world will fall. because American oil is going to start flowing into the market, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. And if crude oil goes down, inflation goes down, then obviously it helps the Federal Reserve to cut the rates, interest rates, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If Federal Reserve is able to cut the interest rate, more liquidity flows into the market, dollar index gets further down, and the companies can do discretionary spends. Public will have more money in the hand, given that he is also proposing corporate tax cut and rebates for the companies and the middle class, right?
Right.
So he
Right.
will nudge the Federal Reserve and Powell and say, and Jerome Powell, you need to get the rates down. Powell will say, oh, what about inflation? He said, okay, we are pumping our own oil, right?
Mm.
You don't worry about it. Will whatever is required, we will do. But you need to cut down the rate. You need to start spurring the growth. American economy is slowing down. And whatever unemployment figures have come in the Biden administration, I'm a bit doubtful because they were a fiscally hawk administration,
Okay.
the Democrats, and the numbers can be played with.
Yeah, true. That happens.
That happens, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
given it was in the election year as well, so
Yeah, correct.
they also,
Correct.
in,
So the next part which Trump is going to deal with is about, the renewable energy.
right.
Okay. Now, in this, you will see, he will say, okay, I'm, that America under Biden, they had mandated, oh, look, if you need to get a project approved, you need to make sure that dash percentage is in renewable energy, or it is sourced from a solar power plant or a windmill and everything, right? Trump is going to remove that conditionalities on renewable project, renewable energy thing.
Yeah.
And says, you don't need a regulatory approval on renewable energy, directly goes with the product. And he said, like wind energy is nonsense. I'm not going to allow even a one windmill to be installed. And by the way, and this actually means that Trump is going to go back on the Paris Accord.
Yeah, true.
He's going to withdraw from the Paris Accord, right?
Correct. He withdrew it earlier as well, so this is not something new which
This
he's
is the
going to do.
new, correct. Plus, he's going to impose tariffs on the solar panels and the solar modules which are imported from China.
Oh yeah, right.
Right.
So it will become costly to get the solar equipments.
So, right. He might also want to say, okay, you people manufacture a solar modules, whatever you can do from India, or you can source from India, or you can probably source from Vietnam, or probably make in America, right? I will give you a minor concession on that, but not from China, right? So these things are going to, this will also impact many countries, like tariffs on German auto industry, French wine.
True.
Then the man might also threaten NATO. Like, you don't increase your defense budget to 5%, I'm going to withdraw from NATO. Right?
Okay.
That's the nature. That's the art of the deal, as he talked about. You remember this was the catchy phrase that Trump has popularized.
Correct.
So what he's going to do is he's going to say, okay, then there was a concern put by certain analysts on the Wall Street. Oh, look, Trump is going to impose tariffs. The tariffs are inflationary in nature. The dollar, if he puts 60% tariff, dollar is going to rally like crazy. But what Trump, very quietly, they put out a trial balloon in paper a few days back in the New York Times, where they said, okay, that we are not going to impose 10, 20%, 30% at one go. We'll impose 5%, 10% initially.
Okay.
And then negotiate.
We'll go slowly.
Slowly, dhire, but we're going to increase bit by bit, 5%. If you don't comply, don't negotiate. Okay, 8%. If you don't comply, then go to 12%. Dhire, slowly, you scale up the ladder of tariffs. Now, what that will do is, that will show that Trump is not going to be that destructive to world economy as he was in the part one of the administration, where everything was haywire, right?
Correct.
Here
Absolutely.
here he is going to act in a very methodical manner, and that would give some relief to countries like India, countries in the European Union who are allies, to negotiate with Trump
Hmm.
and arrive at a settlement, right? So
Yeah.
this is going to be the broad theme of China, of Trump's economic model. However, like there are other things which he might also do, like he might, like though the like let's come to the pharma sector. Okay.
Hmm.
Now in the Chinese pharma, Chinese are the largest suppliers of APIs, the ingredients which are used to form pharmaceutical products, and India is a generic manufacturing hub of the world. Though we
Correct.
have though we have contract manufacturing expertise, but China is the largest, right, in the world. So now the American Congress had proposed the Biosecure Act. But that
Oh,
Biosecure Act did not pass the American Congress, and that basically meant that they will shift their supply chains from China to other countries across the world. And natural beneficiary would have been India, because India is one of the largest pharmacy. India is called the
correct.
pharmacy of the world, right?
Correct.
So with these, this whole concept of whether EV components, solar panels, renewable energies, API monopolies, this is nothing but de-risking of supply chains. This is the
Oh,
another facet of Trump's economic policies apart from trade tariffs. So we covered one on trade tariff.
yeah.
Second we are covering on the on what do you say, the de-risking of supply
The
chain.
risk is supply chain. Yeah.
Yep, which will lead to restructure of supply chain. There will be so
Supply
many.
chains. Yeah.
So like today, you see 25% of the iPhones are produced in India and exported,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Across the world. So
Good.
so that shows that what was once a 75%, 80% monopoly on China has come down to 45, 50, 60%. Right?
Right.
So,
So in the sense, post COVID, America realized that we cannot rely on one country for all sort of supply chains being linked to a particular country. So there needs to be a diversification of supply chains. Uh, if I'm not wrong.
yes, you're right. You're right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So not only that, like Trump's, like he's going to also come on India. Let's
Right. He
let's be very fair. He's going to check. No, you have imposed Harley Davidson so many so many tariffs,
correct.
or oil
Correct.
and gas. So what
Oh,
he's
in
going
auto
to
industry as well, sir. In auto industry, it's
yes,
actually 100% taxation in India
yes, exactly.
on
So
luxury car market.
yes, and IT industry will also bear a brand because of thanks of immigration laws. That is something which we also need to talk about it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So now, what he's going to do? He's going to talk to India and say, look, I will reduce I am proposing this tariff. What have you got to offer me? One, if you want to reduce the trade deficit, you buy more American oil and gas from me, and you reduce the Russian gas and oil,
Yeah.
right? But some people are linking, oh, that if the Russian oil vanishes, the discounts will vanish and the oil will move up and there will be an inflation shock. No, boss, that's not happening. Because if American oil starts flowing in the market and start coming to India, there will be a minor increase. But by the way, our famous corporates have already signed long deals with Russia as well as America for refining the crude.
Correct. They're already doing that.
They're already doing that, right?
Yeah.
So Trump is going to negotiate that you ask for more oil and gas from America, and what defense deal can you offer me to get the Department of Justice monkey off your back?
Oh, yeah. True.
I don't, there is that famous Nikhil Gupta case, and then there is the Adani prosecution bribery thing, which is going on in US Department of Justice, right?
True.
I took the name because it is a public document, right?
Yeah,
I'm
it
not.
is a public, yeah. But the Panoon affair, the Canadian affair, the geopolitical tussle which
Yes,
started with Canada.
Correct.
I mean, in the sense with five eyes.
Yes. So he is going to go after, the economic policies. He is going to disrupt the economic supply chains. He is going to impose tariffs. Tariffs are generally inflationary in nature. His tax cuts will be inflationary in nature because they are going to increase the spending power of the public.
Correct, correct.
But counteracting it, he will decrease the oil and gasoline prices, which will decrease the transportation prices, which will decrease the food and allied inflation, but the non-core inflation, which is going to balance it out,
balance it out, yeah, offset
balance
it,
it
yeah.
out, right? And help the Fed to go for rate cuts, right?
Rate cuts.
So this is how the whole thing, I think, is going to impact the the world as Trump's economy. And then there are other geopolitical agendas, like of artificial intelligence and the tech czars and everything.
True. True. So, coming on to that subject, I want to
Before
know,
before before we move on to that, I just have one small position to understand, which I wrote on my blog as well. People need to understand where we are at the right and how we reached here. Unfortunately, geopolitics is everyone's domain. Geoeconomics is something which has hardly been understood.
Yeah, true.
Right? So, which is the endeavor behind Niti Shastra was to, not marry Indian wisdom to geopolitics, foreign policy, international relations, and even statecraft. And geoeconomics, because geoeconomics trade was tariffs, petrodollar, Federal Reserve, QE, QT. People do not understand, right? What is this? We understand Syria, Iraq, Saddam Hussein. So what is this, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just make these people understand that what exactly happened, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
You remember the US regional bank crisis happened in March 2023? Okay.
Yes.
Right. And when I started my blog Niti Shastra, so in that I just wrote out the low inflation world had three pillars. First, cheap immigrant labor keeping the service sector wages in US low.
Yeah.
Second, cheap goods from China raising living standard among stagnant wages. Third, Russian gas powering German industry and EU more broadly. Okay. US consumer was soaking all the cheap stuff of the world had to offer, the asset rich benefiting from decades of quantitative easing. Bought high-end stuff from Europe, produced using cheap Russian gas, and low-income household bought all cheap stuff coming from China.
Okay. Right.
The 2008 subprime crisis and the general financial crisis of Lehman Brothers led to rate cuts to near zero till 2017. They kept rates to zero from 2008 to 2017. When Fed decided to initiate the quantitative tightening and balance sheet tightening. All this had worked for decades until nativism, protectionism, geopolitics destabilized the low inflation world. President Trump initiates the trade war against China, adding inflationary impact to American consumers and disrupting the supply chain, which is why I wanted to communicate this, right?
Yeah.
Yes. While Fed was slowly drawing down the balance sheet and excessive liquidity amid inflationary impact on the trade war, COVID-19 strikes, and once again, the Fed was forced to turn the spigots back on again to inject liquidity in the market. And Fed injected nearly $3 trillion in the global economy, setting the stage for what was to come. The impact of massive quantitative easing by Fed and the European counterparts during the COVID-19 stimulus set the stage for massive inflationary conditions setting in. The Fed woke up too late in the mid-2022 and started raising the rates fast, like 2%, 3%, 4%, 50 basis point hike, quick in few months' time, leading to liquidity being sucked out of the markets. This was piled on by Russian invasion in Ukraine in February 2022. Sanctions were imposed on Russian oil and minerals, disrupting the commodity supply and a commodity shock across the world.
Agreed.
right?
Yes.
The commodity bull run peaked out with the crude reaching $130 per barrel in 2022, right? Gasoline and oil price shot up across US, Europe, and Asia. America recorded 9% inflation, way above 2%, right? Instead of being of transitionary inflation, this has become structural due to supply side shocks from trade war, commodities war, zero COVID lockdowns in China, and America's weaponization of dollar in a currency war with Russia. This is further mired by excessive liquidity swindling in global economy post COVID-19. Fed decides to hike rates fast in the steepest manner. As interest rates rise, the bond prices fall and the yields goes up. The yield curves get inverted as 2-year bond gives a better return than a 10-year bond. This begins to impact the hedge funds and banks who hedge securities. As pressure increases, it becomes difficult to service interest, and many banks were on the cusp of margin calls. This was in March 2023.
Yeah.
We are in a structural inflation. We are in a war economy, which is impacted by geopolitics, from trade war, tech war, currency war, Ukraine war. All these things are nothing but geopolitics combined.
Correct. Absolutely.
Which brings us to the next part of it.
Yeah, it brings us to the next part. So, this whole America First slogan of Trump, what will be the effect of this America First policy on the wider geopolitics, which is currently evolving worldwide?
Correct. Very interesting question. See, the wider geopolitics, the thing is going to be the first is, let me deal with the North America region first.
Yeah.
One, the relation between America and Canada and Mexico might go south because Trump plans to invoke tariffs. He rather said, that I want to acquire Greenland, I want to acquire Panama Canal, make America bigger again. Okay, make Canada as the next,
51st state of
51st state of USA. Now, that is, people laughed.
Yeah.
People laughed, but don't laugh. Now, that has a strategy behind it. The strategy is that Greenland has got critical rare earth mineral reserve, which Chinese were wanting to mine it out.
Yes, correct. They have been trying hard in Greenland to invest, to help them out on infra building and everything, but US influence is stopping that.
Yes, correct. Also, as the global warming increases, the Arctic supply lines, shipping lanes are going to open. And the biggest beneficiary of the Arctic global warming and Arctic ice melting and, shipping lanes being opened around the clock the whole year is going to be Russia. Because Russia has the biggest territory around the Arctic.
Yeah, true.
And after Russia, it is Canada.
Correct. Right? Yes.
So, which is why you see this kind of, nudging Canada, nudging Greenland, because if you think that US is going to send its army or air force across to Toronto, Ottawa, or going to send to Greenland to acquire, no, that's not happening. What they will do is they will get these countries to negotiate an agreement with America that America will have first right over Canadian resources, including waterways, shipping lines, oil, gas, uranium, coal, and including your, all natural rare earth minerals. Because those rare earth minerals are used in semiconductor industry. And when America decided to, when Trump had threatened to impose the tariffs on China, just recently said I'll put 60% tariff, the Chinese retaliated by saying, okay, if you go ahead with it, we will bar the supply of germanium, gallium, and all these elements which are critical in the manufacturing of semiconductors, the chips, even your defense equipment, and even your solar panels.
Correct.
Try me if you can. The Chinese were saying to Trump, try me if you can. Right? So this is why securing rare earth minerals is a sine qua non for Trump administration, which is why you see this push on Canada, you see this push on Greenland. Insofar as Panama Canal is concerned, it is more about shipping. Again,
Yeah.
the Chinese are trying to influence that as well.
Yes, true. They are.
Correct. So America does not want this sphere of influence. You are going to see a rise of a bully America, which is wanting to dominate the whole America, at least the American region, and probably even the world.
Hmm.
And even yesterday, today, day before, I read a new article that Trump administration, Trump transition team people do not mind if Maduro of Venezuela is kicked out and he can join Assad in Moscow.
Oh yes, true. That is something which is going on. I mean, this soundbite is coming that he may go against Maduro in
Maduro,
Venezuela.
yes,
Uh, but
yeah,
sir, I'm sorry. I'm just
yeah,
chipping in here.
yes, please go ahead.
Uh, does this not look hypocritical? I know. I mean, it's ultimately every country needs to secure its geopolitical interests. But on one side, this administration will be saying that it will be America first. America will be focusing on we won't get involved in other fights. No, we are not interested. It's sort of they are sort of going back into their silo. That is what they are messaging to the world. But on the other side, you see, this presidential candidate threatening tariffs, threatening a revision of supply chains, threatening other countries, to behave or to comply with what USA wants. So, I mean, how do you see this dichotomy as to how the world will respond to it?
Now, excellent question. And I was having, I was waiting to answer this.
Yeah.
See, because the thing is that Trump, what is America first? Let's understand. America first is also about maintaining American hegemony. America
Hmm.
first is also about maintaining the hegemony of US dollar, which is why Trump has said, oh, I will not support any central bank digital currencies, right? Which is why he threatened the BRICS country with 100% tariffs if they try to switch away from the dollar.
Correct, and come up with our own currency.
Correct, right? So, which is why even Indian foreign minister had to clarify, that we have no such plans to do it, right?
Yeah.
And to an extent, after the events in the Middle East, even the Saudi Arabia, who were wanting to join the BRICS grouping, has chosen to withdraw,
Yes. Yes.
right? So what is happening over here is America first is about American interest. It is about America maintaining American hegemony. It is about maintaining the US dollar, stopping America's decline, which he's in his terms, Biden has done it, the Dems have done it, the establishment have done it, right? And that would also mean that they have to sustain the global order built after World War II, that is Pax Americana,
Americano. Hmm.
right?
True, sir. True.
So
Absolutely. But then, you know, this. So don't you think that it will affect this whole disruption will affect America's say in the world itself, where there might be countries who don't want to tolerate these terms or these tariffs or this whole nuisance, which is going to come soon. And then we will see this sort of bifurcation, you know, between the there is already America, already a unipolar power, sole power, and you have this China as an a rising power, and I'm sure there might be countries who won't be tolerating that and will try to sort of, go to the other side and leave the American side, which they used to earlier, or at least used to have a working relationship with America. So how do you see that? Will it happen immediately, or it will take its own sweet time? For America to go full Monty on its geopolitical goals.
See, to answer this, it's already underway.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
It's
it's
it's it's,
already underway.
it's already underway. And the biggest example is, you remember that AUKUS thing happened between UK, Australia, and America. That military alliance they formed in Indo-Pacific, right?
Yes, yes,
Which led to the cancellation of the submarine deal with the France, and it went to America. And France recalled its ambassador, right?
yes,
And on the French visit to White House, there are some very colorful commentary which emerged when when President Macron visited Washington D.C., because the Americans then wanted to placate the French, who were very unhappy with the American rod-shotting of them. No, what now? In that commentary, which I've also written on my blog about the French revivalism, like Macron acting like Charles de Gaulle, right?
yeah, yeah.
The French revivalism,
Yes, you have written extensively on that.
yes,
I mean,
correct,
it's a brilliant piece,
yes,
which one should read. I mean, I will recommend my audience to please go to Sir's Substack, subscribe it, and to please read that, read about the French
correct,
revivalism.
correct. So the French till the era of Charles de Gaulle, except for a brief period of Nicolas Sarkozy, always wanted an independent European European policy, or a French policy, right? Like we are the sponsors of liberty, republic, fraternity, and all that stuff. So we
Yeah,
want to have their own policy. So much so that they had even decided to withdraw from NATO once, during that era.
yeah,
And even Angela Merkel in Germany was of maintaining a kind of a different stance, where a separate stance from the Anglo-American established alliance of UK and USA, right?
yeah,
Which were
yeah,
which were together. Now, due to the Russia-Ukraine war, and the disruption of the Nord Stream pipeline and the gas pipeline across Russian gas, who is the biggest beneficiary? It is America. Apart from the military-industrial complex, which is funneling so much of arms into Ukraine, which is ultimately going back to their contractors, American military contractors only, right?
yeah. You're right.
Like,
Absolutely.
I like to send the money to Ukrainian government. The Ukrainian government send send it back to the American contractor saying, "Okay, supply me arms," right? Right.
Yeah,
And in the meanwhile, you also have, when the American Russian gas is disrupted, you had the Europeans call on the Americans for supply of LNG. So the American shale LNG benefited. And a higher gas and a higher energy prices in Germany and Europe meant that the German industry and the European industry is deindustrializing at a very fast pace, and due to the terms and conditions placed, lucrative terms placed in the CHIPS Act or the Inflation Reduction Act,
mm,
America was offering incentives to the American company, the European company, to shift base to America, right? And get credits, subsidies, tax
yeah,
relief, right? Which led, so what are you doing? So what have last 4 years done after Ukraine? They have made Europe a basket case, European mainland a basket case, which is like a backwater of America,
right.
right?
Yes,
So this is it. This is how America's policies are going to. And now, if you see more Trump tariffs coming, right, on German auto industry, French wine, asking European Union to go up on American energy instead of Russian energy. I still remember Trump used to warn Merkel about Nord Stream 2, that please do not start it, and the
yes,
and the Germans went ahead with it, right? So this is going to be the broad problem which America and its allies specifically there are going to have friction. But it will also throw up a lot of changes in the Middle East, right? And regard to India, right?
mm,
There you said, that the world is getting bifurcated, the supply chains are getting restructured, and that is, I guess, we'll be discussing as we go ahead in the next part. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
about the Middle East theater, and ultimately how this supply chain and the bifurcation is happening in the Asian continent.
In the Asian one. Right, sir. So, going further, America was facing a hard time to dislodge ex-Syrian president now, Bashar al-Assad, due to the profound Russian influence in that geography, along with the Shia crescent of Iran. So, the events which unfolded in these 6 months in Syria, why it happened? And also, so explain the rise of Turkey, because we saw Turkey acting as a frontal power in this region, in the Syrian region, basically in the Shia region of the Middle East, and in Balkans too, in Caucasus too. And are we seeing another rise of Muslim Brotherhood after the, I will say, average success which certain powers got during the Arab Spring? Uh, so, what are your thoughts on these? Syria, Russian influence going down, Iran getting a badgering, rise of Turkey, and Muslim Brotherhood.
Very interesting. Now, you have to now go see the events in the hindsight perspective. 7th of October 2023, the heinous massacre happens in Israel.
Yes.
1,500 Jews are killed. Okay. And you have Hamas terrorists doing paragliding landing inside Israel and doing all the kind of, something which has been done after Holocaust only. Right? That bad a situation. I have something. Good. I have what you say, a point to make over here, which Vikram Sood sir also made in his first post article.
Yes.
Okay. He says, he said, and I also believe, which I have been believing for last almost 1 year now.
Okay.
Where was Mossad? Where was Shin Bet when the Hamas paragliders were landing?
Yeah, absolutely. They were caught totally unaware. Totally unaware.
Most of the Israeli security apparatus vanished in thin air for those 3 to 4 hours when this massacre was happening.
Absolutely.
The world's highest secured border and the fences between Israel and Gaza were left unattended, and there was a party going on. I mean, I literally cannot believe this kind of a security intelligence failure on part of Israel's security apparatus. Either they did not anticipate this big attack, or they anticipated and then let it happen.
Right.
Right? I don't know for what reasons, for X reasons, right? I have no way of deciphering their intentions. I have no way of giving a finality to the cause. But whatever happened on 7th October was ghastly.
It was not normal. It was. I mean, yes, there has been attacks by Hamas on Israel, on Israeli land in the past as well. A lot of attacks, but not this scale, the planning.
This was heinous. This was horrendous. This was barbaric. This was barbaric. This was inhuman by any. Though they were lapses by the Israeli security agencies, but this was heinous by any extent.
Any extent.
Right?
True.
Let that be on record clear. No one is condoning the massacre of the Jews, and Hamas deserved what it got. Right? Then began the Israel's bombing of Gaza, and finally opening the Rafah crossing and pushing in the Palestinian refugees into Egypt, that is Sinai Peninsula of Egypt, and as well as we must understand that Hamas though was born and bred in Gaza, but it is backed by Iran. It is backed by a Sunni group, is backed by Shia Iran, where it is helped by Hezbollah, all kind of tunneling networks which was there below the ground, the kind of rockets which were supplied to by Iran to Hamas. So this was, this was the time when Netanyahu's, Benjamin Netanyahu, due to his sagging political ranking and his his fight with the Israeli Supreme Court, the
Yeah.
man decided to, use this opportunity to push ahead with his agenda, which was always was to, to secure Israel strategically.
Yeah. Geographically, also.
Correct.
Uh, True.
And which led to a lot of response, and then finally we saw the war transform into something more different when
Yeah.
when Israel started attacking Lebanon, Hezbollah, right?
Yes.
All Israeli Iranian convoys or military shipments from Damascus to Lebanon were regularly bombed by the Israeli Air Force in Syria. As well
True.
as in Lebanon, you saw the infamous pager bombings, right?
Yeah, it was something which was out of the world, and nobody
Mm,
nobody could fathom that, someone will come up with
correct,
a
right?
pager bombing. I don't know,
Pi-
like people were thinking that, pagers, like, it's a very old technology. Who will use it? Who uses it? No one using phones,
This,
and then you
this
realize
is
that.
this is Israel and this is Mossad, huh? So we
Yeah,
that,
I have to give it to these Hezbollah too, that they started using pagers. They made it again relevant. But as usual,
the
the way,
Israelis were
yeah,
one step ahead, right?
the one
Even
step
that,
ahead, and they just made a mincemeat of them.
yep. And the whole Hezbollah leadership was taken down. Nasrallah himself was taken down in Lebanon, Beirut, central Beirut,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Arms depot were destroyed, and which led to the Iranians firing their missiles, then Israel firing their counter attack. Then 6 months later, another round happens. So two rounds
yeah.
have already happened. In
I
the
think
mean, uh,
I think that the shocking part was that, the killing of Hamas chief in Iran itself. That was something which the pulling of that feat is something, which nobody will forget.
absolutely, what Israel managed to achieve in Syria, in Lebanon, and Gaza is nothing short of historic.
Yeah.
by by the strategic objective of Israel. And I'll tell you, and I quickly come to that. So after the salvos between Iran and so technically what you look, in the meanwhile, Ukraine, America, increased its supply of weapons, everything in Ukraine to a great extent. Russia
True.
was Russia diverted all its troops, all its military units, powers to Ukraine to defend that, right? In the meanwhile, Bashar al-Assad in Syria decide, okay, I do not want Wagner. Please take Wagner out.
Hmm.
The war is won. He believes the Shia militias are sufficient. So you take Wagner. The Russian MOD says, okay, no, but okay, if you don't want Wagner, we'll send the Wagner out. But at least keep Ridat. Ridat was another, PMC, which
Yeah.
under the Russian MOD,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Paramilitary force.
Right. So private military contractor.
Private military contractor. Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
They suggested Assad to keep a Ridat. He said, no, we don't want Ridat. And then, and they thought the war has ended, civil war has ended, they started to raise tax rates by 10%.
Oh my God. This is such a foolish decision.
This is, oh, I have documented all. The man set himself up for this.
Yeah, he did it himself.
Okay, the man said he started imposing 10%. Local warlords were angry with him. The Hezbollah was taken down by Israel. Shia militias were smothered badly. At the same time, Russian security cover had dwindled. The game was set to be taken.
Yeah, he himself did it. I guess there must be some, some
Correct.
advisor,
Correct.
some mole, who advised
So,
him to
so
take these steps.
a calculated miss errors by Assad, huge intelligence failures by Kremlin, Russia.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah,
They failed to anticipate what is going to come, that it was a wider plan going on to restructure the Middle East. which
Yeah.
has been on since the British administration, since General Wesley Clark said that we have to take down the 7 countries.
Yes.
Right?
PSD 11.
Yes, and then PSD 11 was done to implement by Obama administration. Libya was taken down, Sudan was taken down, Gaddafi was
Iraq.
killed, Iraq was taken down, Lebanon is gone, and finally Syria also fell, and only a last one is remaining, which is Iran.
Iran. Yeah.
But
And
before that, before Iran, the Turkey, you talked about Turkey.
yeah, yeah. Turkey is
Like
something. It's like a wild card entry. Suddenly, ये कहाँ से आ गए?
ये कहाँ से आ गया suddenly? Turkey, like you have to understand that Turkey is the patron of Muslim Brotherhood ideology, which is a political Islam ideology, which was formed in 1937. Okay. This was formed in just 1937 after the Ottoman Caliphate collapsed in 1929. You remember the Khilafat movement that happened in India and all that stuff. So it was all when the British Empire defeated the Ottoman Empire.
The Ottoman Empire.
Ottoman Empire, right?
Yes.
So Turkey wants a revivalism of political Islam.
Okay.
Now, this runs very contrary to the Gulf Arab monarchies who detest political Islam and who have banned Muslim Brotherhood in Saudi Arabia, UAE, and other places.
Bahrain, all the Gulf countries.
All the Gulf countries.
Yeah.
Because they were a part of, essentially, they were a part of Turkish territories earlier on.
Oh, yes.
Ottoman Empire.
Agreed. Okay. Makes sense.
And then the Americans took Lawrence of Arabia. You remember that?
Yeah.
I think they made the guerrilla fighters blow up the Jerusalem track and all that stuff happened.
Yes.
And this is how the Ottoman Empire was dismantled, and then Sykes-Picot affair happened.
Sykes-Picot Agreement.
Yes. They partitioned.
It redrew the Middle East map totally.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
So the problem here is the Muslim Brotherhood ideology is what? Like, who was Osama bin Laden? Who subscribed to Muslim Brotherhood ideologue.
Oh, this I didn't know.
I have written in my blog. You have who was Aman al-Zawahiri? Who was a deputy? He was also a preacher of Muslim Brotherhood ideology. Now, who is that Ahmad al-Shara al-Jolani, who's become the new de facto
president?
HTS ka jo leader bana, HTS leader, the Turkish groups which have captured Damascus or HTS and Syrian National Army, right?
Yes.
And the man is wearing a suit, tie, and dining and doing all that stuff. Right?
Yeah.
And the world is meeting, the Americans are meeting, the French is meeting, the UN is meeting, and they are slowly lifting sanctions on Syria, and Bashar is gone.
Yeah, they are creating exceptions for certain countries.
But this guy subscribed to Muslim Brotherhood ideology. He was the part of ISIS.
Yeah.
Okay. Worked with Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Then he split away with him. He joined Jabhat al-Nusra, which is nothing but Al-Qaeda in Syria.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he split away from Nusra as well in 2018 when Zawahiri said, oh, no, we have to support the Islamic State in Baghdadi. He said, no, I don't support him. I'm going to go make my own group. And he founded HTS, which makes me come to a conclusion that he is nothing but a Turkish plant.
Interesting. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham.
Yes. HTS. He is a Turkish asset. Many times intelligence agency plants their assets in terror groups. It is a very common practice. And very interestingly, he said the women do not have to wear the burqa, and we are not. And we were asked, will Syria be modeled like Taliban? And he said, no. Syria is a modern society. We will like to work. Society. We would like to work with the way Turkey functions. Turkey is a strategic partner. Turkish foreign minister was the first to visit Damascus, go to that hill.
Yeah. In fact, I understand that it is the Turkey who is drafting the new constitution for Syria.
Correct. So Turkey was doing all these things, right? So in the meanwhile, Meanwhile, the man also said, no, like the Syria is about modern society. Taliban is a more tribal Pashtun society. So please do not compare.
Yeah.
Right? And there were celebrations in Damascus. People were celebrating Christmas. People were doing everything. Or do whatever you want to. There'll be no problem. There'll be. So what does it say? The whole thing was calibrated. And then all this, when Turkey was doing, Israel made its own move.
Yeah.
Israel went ahead and captured a few hundred square kilometers into Mount Hebron in the Golan Heights, which it always wanted to occupy. And from there, an artillery shell can fall on Damascus, which is only 40 kilometers away.
Yes, right. That gives them a vantage point on Syria, and given the Syria has always been problematic for Israel.
Absolutely. So this is the broader geopolitics, and they also have surveillance over the rights of over the route, Hezbollah route, Iranian supply route to Lebanon, which is now cut off by land. By air, the Israel is maintaining air dominance. They have destroyed the Syrian navy, the Syrian arms depot. So just imagine, within a span of 1.5 years, from that fateful event of a fateful day of 7th of October 2023, the whole Middle East has been redrawn.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
The Shia militias are gone. Turkey is back as a power broker in Syria, rekindling its Ottoman dreams. Like I want to establish my own Ottoman empire using those gas and using those pipelines to, along with Syria to start HTS to start its own affair. Meanwhile, Israel gets to dominate Syria, it gets to dominate Lebanon, it gets to dominate Gaza, and beautifully, this puts the cat among the pigeons in the Gulf Arab states. The Gulf Arab states will now be thinking, do we need to really go and sit with Russia and OPEC Plus and China?
Yeah, true. Because
the Emiratis are the worst scared, because that is where the Russian oligarchs and the Russian money flows the most.
Oh.
Right? So the Emiratis were the first one to get, no, this is not good, what is happening. Because suddenly the Russian influence is dwindled. Because from the Syrian ports, Russia used to manage its operation in Sahel. And I still remember Donald Trump tweeting from his Truth Social to a message to Vladimir Putin that this carnage, that you should have never gone into Syria. You should have never supported Bashar al-Assad. You lost lakhs of troops and thousands of them are injured. It's a useless war which is going on. If we want, this war can continue, but I hope, Vladimir, you will understand it and agree for a ceasefire. Maybe President Xi can help you.
Okay.
And these are the multiple messages. But this is telling Vladimir Putin that I know you fairly and squarely have lost in Syria. I know that if we decide, we can linger this on war endlessly in Ukraine. You want to achieve a ceasefire in Syria, then you need to come to senses and come to terms with us.
Yeah.
If you think you can, your occupation will be legitimized or sanctioned, legitimized by USA of the four, that Crimea, Kherson, the Donetsk and Luhansk, those four provinces will be accepted by the international community, that is really not going to happen. But they will say, okay, let's agree to draw a status quo ceasefire on this line. No more firing, no more thing. Maybe you will have international peace observer or a UN mandated force observing those ceasefire lines, right? Where all countries are involved, where India and China also become part of the arbitration process between Russia and the West, right?
Yeah.
So I see, among the turmoil which has been induced into Middle East, I see a ray of hope coming in that Gaza war is now ending after a ceasefire and hostage deal.
Yes.
Ukraine
Yes.
is going to die down, but Iran is going to hot up. There are
Yeah, that
very,
is.
very hard signs that this spring or by this summer, the Israel might take any opportunity to virtually on uh, hit back on Iranian nuclear plants and destroy the Iranian nuclear plant and set them back by a few decades.
Mm. Yeah,
Because
because they have the opening now. You have regime change in Syria. Lebanon is gone. Hezbollah is not at all functioning. Hamas is already in tatters, and Iran, unfortunately, is not a strong state when it comes to military as well.
correct,
And Israel also has got USA's back as well, and I think Trump is uh, excited to go against Iran in coming months. Uh, Absolutely, sir. So I here have one question.
yes, tell me.
How do you see events shaping up in Balkans, Caucasus, in the sense that you had this Armenia-Azerbaijan war, and I'm forgetting the name. Azerbaijan won, and it was through the Russian mediation that the war was stopped, a ceasefire was achieved. And now later on, in few days back, there was a news that Armenia has signed a strategic treaty for a strategic partnership with USA. So now USA is in saddle in Balkans or Caucasus. And now Turkey is also rekindling its Ottoman dreams, Ottoman Empire dreams. So, how do you see, what is the analysis of it? How this may move forward? Will there be? Because I also think, if, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Turkey backing up HTS leader Jolani in Syria won't be happening without American consent.
Uh, Consent would be a bit stronger word, I would say.
Okay,
American nod.
okay.
Okay, like
American, not okay.
so be it.
So
Let it
the
be. Let it
strategic the
convergence.
convergence,
Convergence.
yeah, strategic convergence. So yeah, okay. They were like, okay, fine, I'll stay down. You do whatever you want to, because ultimately it doesn't affect, it affects positively, not negatively. But
Correct.
but as you said, sir, Turkey want to rekindle its Ottoman dreams, and we have revisionist power in Russia. We have revisionist power in uh, China. We have revisionist power in USA also.
Absolutely.
And now you have another revisionist power, which is Turkey, which wants to again expand its border, expand its influence. They've already done it in Syria now. So do you think they will be playing some games in Caucasus, in Balkans, in Central Asia? You know,
Yes. I am into it. The
yeah.
moment Bashar al-Assad fell, the TIP, the Turkestan Islamic Party, jihadists who were there in Syria, announced that China, we are coming for China next.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
Shanjing and Uyghur militants. Okay,
Good militants.
and the you know the Turkestan movement. Now coming to the Caucasus, which is a very important region. The underbelly of Russia, which I call it. Okay.
Yes,
Now
agree.
this has been technically a Russian sphere of influence, but
Yes.
look what look what Turkey has done. Turkey has been funding an anti-Russian fifth column in Central Asia, jihadist. Okay.
Okay.
Salafi jihadist group. We will soon establish our jihadist rule in Central Asia and Caucasus. Turkey has managed to compromise every depot's key allies for Russia in the whole region. Armenia has aligned with the West. Assad's Syria is now completely collapsed. Azerbaijan is also now part of, sponsored by Turkey and backed by Israel, right?
Mm,
The
mm,
Marxist-Leninist Kurdish movement, which have their headquarters in Russia, such as PKK, are diminished. Even Haftar's Libya National Army in eastern Libya has also been now countered by GNA. Now, the Turkish sphere of influence in the Middle East and possibly will expand in the Balkans, while Russian sphere is limited to merely the rogue states around the globe and Central Asian republics and Hungary, of course. Right? Now, the Russian policy makers need to really rethink that is, their vision towards pan-Slavism and pan-Orthodoxism rather than irrational Turkophile Uranianism.
Okay.
So, depending upon Erdogan and Turkey have proven to be very costly for Russia. It has lost critical allies in Syria, critical allies in the Middle East, sphere of influence in Caucasus, and now it is on the verge of losing even the interest in Central Asia, which brings me to the next question or the next event, next thing, the chain of event. Where did those thousands of jihadists from Syria, ISIS, vanished via Turkey?
Yeah,
they came to Afghanistan. Absolutely. There they remodeled them into ISKP or Islamic State in Khorasan province.
Yeah.
And they are working with Al-Qaeda in India, Indian subcontinent, AQIS.
AQIS, yes.
Their agenda here is to, obviously, apart from global Islamic Caliphate, their agenda is to create a Ghazwa Hind, which is what AQIS says.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And dichotomically, ISKP is targeting Taliban.
Yeah.
Right? And the recent Haqqani network minister, who was killed in an assassination attempt, was done by ISKP, and the Taliban regime accused Pakistan of fomenting it.
Right.
But why this is important? Because Afghanistan will be used as a launch pad for these kind of terror groups for pushing this Islamic jihadist element into Central Asia, into through Wakhan corridor into Turkestan province of China, Uyghur
province,
Uyghur jihadist. So, and you see the attacks in Moscow last year, the Moscow theater attack which happened.
Yes,
The module had come from Central Asia. Where is the staging ground? The staging ground is Afghanistan, the lawless area of Kandahar, Jalalabad, and the Tora Bora mountains along the Pakistan border.
But sir, I have one question here. This again I do not understand. Taliban is also sort of have this dreams of conquering Indian subcontinent, and then you have ISKP who wants to do Ghazwa Hind. So here you see, there is this convergence on their goals. So why ISKP is going against Taliban and Taliban, start.
Yes. See, the thing is, ISKP and Taliban, they belong to very different ideologies. Now, Taliban originates from Deobandi ideology, which the seed of Deobandi ideology happens to be in Western Uttar Pradesh in India, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, precisely.
Precisely. And ISKP is hardcore Salafist jihadist ideology, which has emerged from the Wahhabi Islam, sect, which was, cultivated by the American and the Pakistanis and the Saudi money during the Afghan jihad, era, right? Of Islamic Caliphate. But obviously, the roots are even prior. If you date it back to Al Qaeda had its mentors in Muslim Brotherhood. That's a political Islam, right? If you read those their agendas of Muslim Brotherhood, you will understand what it is all about. So this ISKP comes from the ideology of a Salafist jihadist ideologist group, which is about all these three organizations. So ultimately, what we have to understand that like these people, they I wrote it in my blog. I'll just quote it there.
Yeah, sure.
While officially Muslim Brotherhood maintains a political Islamist order in form of Ottoman Caliphate, it propagates the ideology of violence by supporting groups like Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Some members of Al Qaeda and ISIS were first introduced to violent strain of Salafism through Brotherhood before graduating to jihadist Islamic groups. Chief among these were ISIS Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, okay, who was earlier in Egypt, then he was in Camp Bucca in the US prison before being released, and then he took training in Libya, and finally he landed up in Syria, and he started Islamic Caliphate.
Right.
The Brotherhood rose as a bridge of jihadist organization is perhaps most visible in the group's ties to Al Qaeda. The United States sanctioned Sheikh Abdul al-Majid al-Jidani in 2004 for a long history for working with bin Laden, serving as one of his spiritual leaders. Now, al-Zindani also led Brotherhood al-Shah political party in Yemen. The most famous Brotherhood member to join Al-Qaeda is group's co-founder Osama bin Laden. Right? According to Al-Qaeda co-founder Aman al-Zawahiri, he was also the part of the Brotherhood, and he participated in Egyptian Islamic Jihad in 1973, who was also part of the assassination attempt on President Anwar al-Sadat. Right? And it was EIJ finally merged with Al-Qaeda in the year 2001. Right? Al-Qaeda's former affiliate in Syria, Nusra Front, is a rebel group dedicated to replacing President Bashar al-Assad. Now I talked about Al-Jolani. This Muslim Brotherhood chaos will not just say limited to Middle East or Turkey. People are getting mistaken, because they have branches, they have affiliates across the world. Middle East, North Africa, Egypt, Caucasus, Central Asia, South Asia, Pakistan, Lahore, everywhere they have it. Even Bangladesh, even some banned groups like Simi or Orton, they were also affiliated to Muslim Brotherhood ideology. Right?
Okay.
And what makes them unique is all of them have a caliphate plan.
Caliphate plan.
Right? So
right.
it is just not about, and to this I will quote the Egyptian Minister of Religious Endowments, Muhammad Mokhtar Gomma, who says Islam should be kept separate from political affairs. Brotherhood years in power were the worst in history. He warned in 2014 that ISIS and the Brotherhood were forming an alliance. Egyptian prisoners would be, and the incitement will come from Qatar. Conspiration will happen from Libya. Mobilization will happen in Turkey to ally with Islamic State. He warned this in 2014.
Oh.
This was General Sisi's minister, who is now the current president, come dictator, whatever you may call it, right, of Egypt. And by the way, there is charter in Egypt. So it maybe they are different strains of ideology. One is a Deobandi ideology, other is a Salafi jihadist ideology, other is a Muslim, but the end product remains the same. That is the problem we need to understand. But contrastingly, and this is not me, so many people, even the French intelligence chief has warned about increasing Muslim Brotherhood radicalization in France. Right?
Yeah, it came up recently.
Yes. So the problem over here is that the world needs to come to grasp, and which is why a situation which is emerging in the Middle East, where you have a Muslim Brotherhood backed Qatar and Turkey having a victory lap in Syria, where you have the transnational jihadists running all the way from Syria via Turkey to Afghanistan, and then fomenting terror attacks in Central Asia. And ultimately in South Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And which brings us to the next part on the Asian continent stuff.
Yes, sir. This was the question I was kind of lingering and want to understand. Let's come to South Asia. Now, South Asia, you have the first fire was started in Myanmar. In Myanmar, against Aung San Suu Kyi, when there was this famous coup d'etat by the Myanmar military against her, uh, and then she was removed from power. And then you had this sudden civil war in Myanmar with different groups forming up or coming together to oust the Myanmarese military. Now, interestingly, that war is still ongoing. The region is in turmoil, and it has direct implications on us, on India, on Bangladesh, and other countries in Southeast Asia. And then, move forward. You have this sudden coup d'etat again a coup in Bangladesh uh, against Sheikh Hasina on the charges that she was becoming dictatorial and it was becoming sort of a one party, one party state against the student led movement, and then suddenly you see, Muhammad Yunus, who was the father of microfinance, flowing down from Paris, which had happened earlier as well, flowing down from Paris, coming to Bangladesh, becoming a chief advisor to the government, to the state of Bangladesh, and has taken over the Bangladesh state as the premier of it. And it had direct effect on us, 71 war, everything, everyone knows what we did under American nose. So, sir, how do you read this? What is happening in Asia as well? See, all regions are sort of, bit of ignited, you know, and Southeast Asia has got largest population of humans on Earth, correct? And then you again have this Afghanistan Pakistan, this short rivalry which is currently going on at the
On
Durand line,
yes,
correct, where Taliban want to push inside Pakistan because they think Pakistan is not a right state or legitimate state as per the Islam.
because they want Pashtunistan.
Pashtunistan, yes, precisely, and Pakistan has got a large population of Pashtuns as well. So, sir, how do you see these conflicts in South Asia, in Asia itself? First, we'll discuss about how this event all looks like, and then I'll probably go to the next question as to how how it directly affects India, and about the last question on how India can chart these unknown waters of Trump 2.0 administration. But first, we'll discuss about what is happening in Asia at large.
Okay. See, we have to understand, Vidura, one thing. These terror groups, ISKP specifically, and Muslim Brotherhood ideologues, ideologists, sponsored terror affiliates, they are pawns on the geopolitical chessboard. Right? They are used as tools to threaten states, to instigate turmoil in regions across the world. From Middle East, Syria, Levant, Egypt, North Africa, all the way into Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, even Myanmar, and finally probably arriving at the gates of India. Okay.
Yes.
Because those ISKP militants have got from Syria, they went on to Afghanistan, the lawless border region with Pakistan, Kandahar, Tora Bora Mountains.
Yeah.
So the Pakistani intelligence is now backing. ISI is working with ISKP. And ISKP also has a kind of being used as a proxy by various powers in that lawless region of Balochistan and Kandahar, okay, to sponsor these groups. And the issue was that Taliban was interestingly cooperating with India.
Yeah.
On busting these hideouts of ISKP.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? And
yes.
even allowing, other things which need not be said here, right? But
yes.
But so what the coup in Bangladesh, the removal of Sheikh Hasina on the 5th of August 2024. Now, the day was very interesting. It was a day when Ram Janambhumi's symbolism was there.
Oh, yeah, true.
Shilanas was done. It was the day when Article 370 was abolished. And it was on that day when Sheikh Hasina was ousted by students' protest, so-called student protest, engineered by Jamaat leadership and all the university foot soldiers. And then she was flown into refuge in India, right, for an asylum in India because she was a friend of India.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Now, with Bangladesh regime, what Muhammad Yunus, the so-called microfinance guy, who was sponsored by Clinton Foundation.
Yes, they do it openly.
They do it openly. And he also funded against Donald Trump, which is very interesting, which brings the Trump question back to South Asia.
Back to South Asia, yes.
Right?
True.
So where we started with Trump, we are back to Trump. Right? Right? So,
yes.
So now now it is rumored to have said, Trump is rumored to have said, oh, where is that microfinance guy who went from Dhaka who funded against me? Which is why, very interestingly, the US has just called for elections in Bangladesh. Okay. Obviously, the coup was engineered by the deep state as a way to tell India, look, I control the cards in the region, in Bangladesh. Yeah. So Bangladesh is going to become the staging ground for ISKP and Al-Qaeda militants. And my fear is why? Because Yunus has released so many terrorists from jail and has also relaxed norms and engagement with Pakistan and Pakistani leadership, and even allowed shipment from Karachi all the way to Chittagong and Dhaka.
Yes, that has happened too.
That has happened. So now because the ISKP and Al-Qaeda militants, IQIS militants, whom the Taliban was not allowing to function from Afghanistan, will shift base to Bangladesh to target India. Right? And that gives Pakistan a plausible deniability to say, look, हमारे यहाँ से थोड़ी आया है.
Right.
Right? True. And the problem is that till the time it was Pakistani groups of Lashkar-e-Taiba, Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, Hizbul Mujahideen, or Jamaat-ud-Dawa, which was Lashkar-e-Taiba of this Hafiz Saeed, right?
Hafiz Saeed, yeah.
Masood Azhar ka Jaish-e-Mohammed. Till these terrorist groups were doing attacks into Kashmir and Jammu and Kashmir and other parts of India, India could directly pin the blame and probably do an airstrike, do a surgical strike. But what if these terrorists starts coming from Bangladesh?
Yeah. And with Bangladesh, we have the relationship is not as it is with Pakistan.
Correct. The problem is you cannot take your army into Bangladesh and do a kind of an operation or do airstrikes into Bangladesh. Because it is still on the paper, it is still a friendly country, though anti-India sentiment has grown multifold in last 8 to 10 months.
Yeah, true. And like there was this, as you know, a lot of Hindu minority groups in Bangladesh were sort of facing the brunt of the new administration or the radicals there. And it was a very, sad sight. But then there was the expectation of Indians that, the government will do something. Some kind of a buffer zone will come up, that sort of a thing. So do you think we are going to go with that step, or we'll have that patient approach towards that problem?
I consider Bangladeshi region as a swamp.
Oh, okay.
Okay. If you go in, one, you need to have a clear objective. Why do you want to go in? For what? A regime change? Is there a Mukti Bahini there over there? No.
No, not now.
Not now. Awami League is already banned. There is a political witch hunt going on of Awami League. All Hindu leaders, even those monks of ISKCON, have been put behind bars and they are being tried. Okay? Rangdari is openly going on where the current regime in Bangladesh is asking people for extortion to keep them safe, to guarantee them security.
Yeah.
In this circumstances, does it make sense to take your battalions into a swamp and get dragged into a war where you have a no clear objective, you have a no clear alternative? We are not like America, that every hammer needs, every nail needs a similar hammer, that is military war.
Mm.
We are not America. Number one. Number two, there is no clear objective. Why do you want to go in? Three, covert operations offer you better deniability. Our intelligence has worked in previous, even in 1989, 1919. Ehsan Asghar, I guess, who was the I'm forgetting the name. I may be wrong on that,
Mm.
right? He was a military dictator in the 1989, 1990, and the raw Indian intelligence RNAW was able to get Sheikh Hasina, Awami League, and Bangladesh's BNP Khalida Zia to work together.
Yeah.
So India does have some leverage in the Bangladeshi military. It does have some leverage with the Bangladeshi politicians. It does have its intel covert operations, which we did in 1970s when Mrs. Gandhi had trained a Hindu force, creating an Hindu force, asking for a
Yeah.
separate homeland for Hindus in Bangladesh,
Yes. Yes.
and which were dismantled by Mr. Morarji Desai when after Mrs. Gandhi lost after emergency.
Yeah.
You know, and we left Bangladeshi Hindus to the mercy of Bangladeshi Islamists and so-called promises of Zia, who backstabbed us and ultimately funded the Mizo rebel, which led to Mizo rebellion. So, it's a very checkered past and history. It's not like Pakistan where you can go inside and, bomb on a camp, terror camp, and get out quickly.
Yeah.
Right? Though you have huge conventional superiority of Bangladesh, there is no. But I believe at some point of time, we will have to deal with this. But in the meanwhile, the only good thing which emerges is that if America is calling for election, the most likely thing is going to happen when Trump comes to power tomorrow. He's like to get the American Department of State Department or the military department or the deep state, whoever it is, to nudge Yunus out of power.
Mm.
And which is going to be replaced by a kind of a shambolic elections to be held by the Bangladeshi military, which will have least participation from the Awami League, because Awami League is sanctioned, Sheikh Hasina is there, his son is in America, his daughter is in India working with WHO. Okay?
Yes.
Right? And so, her daughter, sorry. So Awami League is dismantled, banned, whatever it is. So the natural alternative remains BNP, Khalida Zia's party, and Jamaat.
Jamaat. Yes.
And Jamaat
Yes.
is what? Jamaat is an extension of Muslim Brotherhood in Bangladesh, by the way.
Oh, interesting. This is something which will have a profound effect on the region then.
Yes, exactly. So Jamaat is sponsored by Pakistan, and Jamaat also has ideological affiliation with what you say with Muslim Brotherhood, right?
Yes.
I think I did right. Huh? The Muslim Brotherhood, an international organization promoting Islamist ideology, is the main source of funding of Jamaat-e-Islami in Bangladesh. Both of them share Islamist ideology, emphasizing implementation of Sharia law and the establishment of Islamic State. By funding Jamaat, the Muslim Brotherhood aims to expand its influence, Islamist influence in South Asia, particularly Bangladesh. There is a growing engagement between Bangladesh's Jamaat-e-Islami and China. China is engaging Jamaat, a Muslim Brotherhood offshoot in Bangladesh, to keep a check on Uyghur militants, while it won't mind if Muslim Brotherhood does its dirty work via Bangladesh, using the cadres of ISKP and AQIS, who are being abetted by Pakistan's ISI in the borderlands of Afghanistan. So now you see Pakistan, China, Muslim Brotherhood, Bangladeshi, jihadist, America, everyone converging on Bangladesh, which is why the events in Bangladesh were very critical for our national security. right? Which is why the events in Turkey, the arrival of Muslim Brotherhood sponsored regime in Syria,
Syria.
the re-emergence of Turkey as a regional power in that becomes very important. And this also brings a bigger question to the world power dynamics.
Yeah.
On one side, India has a lawless Myanmar out of control, where US is also using that and Myanmar, Arakan army, and all that stuff which is going on in Myanmar, where the Myanmar junta has lost so much control over it. The US has a specific strategic purpose in the region. One, to get a Saint Martin Island base in Bangladesh near the Chattogram area.
Yes.
That gives a vantage point over the whole Bay of Bengal, Indian missile testing, Indian space stations, right? And
Absolutely.
in that, and also an overlooking on Myanmar, and directly having a look at Andaman and even the Malacca Strait, right? Three, it also helps US to look after China and what is happening in the northeastern India, the missionary activities, everything gets, because the fentanyl supply line, the synthetic drugs which were getting exported via northeast India, Myanmar, Chattogram, all the way up to Mexico and USA, right?
US. Yes.
At the same time, the America also gets to keep India in check by constantly needling it from these jihadists, using Bangladesh as a base, while Pakistan gets the plausible deniability, right? Because India, to a certain extent, might not agree to America's agenda, and one of the reasons we have seen so much of coldness between India and the Trump administration currently, right, where there has been a very less discussion on India's role, or the warmth between Prime Minister Modi or President Trump. It is because India made that detente with China, which puts via Moscow, which puts the whole American plan of bifurcation of global system into a quandary.
Hmm.
Because if India and China can go back to their old status quo, which they have done, they can
Yeah.
open trade routes. So it reduces the impact of American tariffs on China, because Indian market gets opened to Chinese products and Chinese companies. Also, America can blackmail India, showing the Chinese threat to make it sign for American deals,
Hmm.
right? American defense deal. Look,
Yeah.
look, look! China has amassed so much. You take stealth from us. You take this from us, which is why you have seen America, stymie India's indigenous jet program, from Tejas 1,
Yeah.
from Tejas engines, delay हो रहा है,
Delays in engines. Yeah.
delay, ये नहीं मिलेगा, वो नहीं मिलेगा, इसकी जगह ये ले लो, इसकी जगह वो ले लो. Why is this happening? This is happening because you have put the whole strategy of American global dominance of Indo-Pacific into quandary by making a peace with China, which they did not expect. That has not gone down well in Washington, D.C.
Hmm.
And which
So,
is why the Trump administration is equally angry, right? Also, I guess they were supposed to meet in September during the visit. That did not transpire. I don't know the reasons for that. Okay, probably, that the government may know the best. But then also you have India acting on its own for its strategic interest with China. Not good. Not because a war between two countries would be useless. Because in today's scenario, both countries will end up damaging each other more than getting out a clear winner.
yes, absolutely. That is true. But I mean, I sometimes wonder how certain power works. Like it was China who sort of went ahead in on certain parts of our northern borders, and the relationship went down abysmally low. And now there is this opening, it just happened. Then America also commit the same mistake where it wants to again, pin down India by its policy in South Asia. So it feels as if both the powers do not want India's rise. as an
Abs-
independent power.
Absolutely right. America does not want another China in India, and China does not want another China in Asia. Right?
Yes,
That is
agree.
the G2, and I'll tell you why. Because the Chinese are of a very duplicit. They have taken a strategic retreat.
Yeah,
Okay?
it feels like that, sir.
It's a strategic retreat because they are under fire from Trump tariff. The Chinese economy is going under deflationary process. The consumer demand is not happening. They are inducing trillions of dollars of stimulus. They are devaluing yuan, and they're also likely to face Trump tariffs. And they need alternate markets to thrive. And India is one of the world's largest economies, consumer base for Chinese companies,
Yes.
for the Chinese companies. The Chinese
Right,
have
sir.
taken a strategic retreat. Let's open ties with India. Moscow helped it. So what we are seeing is a flux in a global order the moment the Trump presidency got confirmed.
True.
Events happen in Israel. Events happen in Syria. As the Trump momentum gained, events happened in Bangladesh. Events happened in China. The detente between India and China. Suddenly, there was a lot of activity.
So it was it kind of, setting up a negotiation table for the incoming Trump administration by the State Department, or let's say by the national security apparatus of USA?
Yes, it was everything. the the coup, the regime change in Syria was what? Setting up the leverage with Vladimir Putin to argue on to negotiate on Ukraine.
Ceasefire on Ukraine, yeah, yeah,
Similarly, the cases on the Adani Group filed by the U.S. Department of Justice or the Nikhil Gupta Pannu case, they were kind of setting up leverage with India.
yeah. I know in Bangladesh also now a huge leverage
Huge leverage,
on in
right?
the region.
Correct.
Hmm.
So it is about putting Trump into a situation of dominance from where he can, from a position of strength, he can
Strength.
negotiate with the world.
Correct, sir. So, coming on to my last questions, what are the prospects for India, sir? How best can we, chart these unknown waters of upcoming Trump 2.0 administration, and what our government needs to do to emerge stronger in this flux which is happening in the global arena, and given the political realities of our country, the government has to be on their toes to address certain issues. So, how do you see Indian government doing it? And apart from that, uh, last question, which I forgot. This will be the last question. How do you see Silicon Valley, getting politically involved in USA and backing Trump totally 100%? Why this is happening? This is. I mean, yeah. I mean, America has got this culture of various businessmen or companies supporting individual politicians because it's a capitalist economy. That's okay. But now this time, as compared to the Trump in 2016, what changed in 2020? What changed in 2024 for the whole Silicon Valley to back the Trump up? What are your views on it? So the
Great.
first question is on India, and the second on the last on this thing, the Silicon
Okay,
Valley thing.
great. Now, coming to India, you know, first of all, let us admit that Trump 2.0 is not going to be as pro-India as we anticipated or we believed so, especially on social media.
But sir, I'm sorry. I'm just again just want to ask that the U.S. foreign policy is very institutionalized, right? And recently, when there was passing the baton event was happening between the current NSA and the upcoming NSA under Trump, both the NSAs were agreed on a lot of points. There was a lot of convergence on many points. In fact, all you would say. But on India, both stressed on a point that it is India and USA partnership is going to be, one of the important and one of the, um, uh, you can say, uh, partnership of a century, of this century, basically. Effective partnership, strategic one. So how do we reconcile the fact that, Trump, being a kind of a different guy who does not behave like a politician. So how do you think, this will converge with the US State Department, Pentagon, CIA objective of getting India on their side or forging a partnership between America and India?
Okay. See, the thing is that insofar as the Trump administration and India is concerned, we have to understand our this bit dispatch that there is a of course there is a bipartisan consensus on India in American Congress and American diaspora
Yes, yes,
and among the American lawmakers. However, the policy has always been about America first.
true.
It is about America's interest, be it Nixon, be it Clinton, be it Bush, be it Obama, or be it even Trump, right? Or Biden, right? Now, the the issue over here is that America interest means India is a pivotal cog in the wheel for American strategy over China. You have to understand one thing. America's biggest challenge or the world's biggest challenge is coming from China.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
because because the CCP is just not CCP has learned the right lesson from the fall of the Soviet Union, and they have built the economic prowess, they have built the technological prowess, they have built infrastructure, they have built international institutions. They have the Chinese employee, Chinese state-owned enterprise in mining and doing all kind of stuff in Africa, in Central Asia, Belt Road, AIIB, so much so that even yuan is also now part of SDR, and they control 80% of the world's rare earth mineral supply.
Correct.
Right? So it is not another Soviet Union, which was a basket case, which they could easily dislodge by, after years of non-stop war, right?
Yeah, an arms race, which they
Um,
triggered. And yeah,
arms race, space race, all that stuff happened with the Soviet Union.
yes, yes,
Chinese are a different way. Chinese are here to avenge the century of shame which they got at the hand of the British imperialists, the Americans, the French, when the Summer Palace was raided in the Second Opium War, and their heritage was ravaged. And during the Opium War, or, during the Manchu Empire or the Qing Dynasty, a lot of nonsensical trade tariffs, trade regimes were forcibly imposed on China, and China was tried to be ruined.
yes.
Right? So they are here to avenge that. The Han civilization is here, it is back, and it wants to win. That the CCP has got 100-year-old plan for it. Made in China 2049. The China Dream 2049, made in China 2025. So what America is doing is they are trying to delay the rise of China as much as it can by putting those tech war, trade war, everything in place, and wanting to use power like India as pawns in their bigger geopolitical strategic
Objectives.
objectives.
Yes.
But here the
It's yeah, yeah.
sorry.
Please go ahead, sir. Please
Yeah.
go.
Here the problem is that we are not a geopolitical pawn.
Yeah,
India is not a,
absolutely.
India is not a geopolitical. Just because your strategy is to take down China, so we cannot be your hired guns anymore.
Yes, yes. And
Right?
this has eerie parallels to, World War One, actually, sir.
World War II even.
World War One, World War Two. In fact, in World War One, to defeat the Ottomans, you took the help of Indians. It was the Indians,
Who
we,
fought? Yes.
who fought and defeated on the Eastern Front to Ottomans.
Yes, exactly. in Baghdad, in Mesopotamia, all that stuff.
Everywhere, sir.
Egypt, near Nile River.
Yes.
I remember those battalions which had gone from India to fight for the British Indian Army.
Yes. You have Maharaja of Jodhpur leading a force and, storming the Ottoman capital and getting a victory for the British.
Yes, exactly. So that is exactly the point. We were used as pawns in World War One, Two, and then World War Two with an assurance to grant us freedom. We were again asked to fend for the British Indian Army to fight in France, to fight in Europe, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So there is a memorial in the France as well, where Prime Minister Modi went a few years back and laid the wreath because Indian soldiers are participating in that. Right?
Yeah.
The Battle of Haifa, if you would remember.
Yeah, definitely. We have Haifa Chowk in Delhi, I guess.
Yes. Yes,
So,
correct. Right. So near the Teen Murti Marg in Delhi. So we are no more sepoys. We are not your brown slave. We are not your fodder for your geopolitical game. This is what the government of India will need to communicate in clear terms to the United States. We are ready to work with you in defense. We are ready to work with you in space program. We are ready to work with your corporates, your tech giants, everything. Because we are a democracy, we believe in shared values, but we have our own strategic autonomy, which cannot be taken away at any cost. You are a nuclear power. You are a 1.4 billion people economy. You can easily leverage that position from strength. Once we rise to 7 to 8, and which brings me to the second point in this part, that the moment we reach from 3 trillion, 3.5 trillion to almost 5 trillion, $8 trillion economy by this decade end, you will be in such a position that the Americans and the world will not be able to ignore you, and not dictate you. For the reason, Europe is becoming a basket case. It is not growing. It is not going to grow more.
yes, absolutely.
Russia has already been crippled a lot due to its wars. China is slowing down. Southeast Asia is again, and is an appendage of, kind of thing.
Yes.
In Japan and China and South Korea, the populations are aging out.
Yes.
There's going to be a shortage of labor force over there, right? Which is why those countries have to go for automation because there'll be no manpower left to fend for.
Yes, agreed. And that's the reason we are seeing this increase in AI machine learning in these countries.
Correct. So Africa is a different case altogether. As a continent, it may have a huge mineral resource, everything, but it is not collectively as a group, it is not a powerful entity, right? So the world's 3 largest economies by the end of this decade, 2030, 2032, are going to be America, China, and India.
Yes.
Yeah. To make sure that we reach that stage where we are not, sidelined, where we are not, dictated from Washington, D.C. or London or Paris on what to do, which is why we need to focus on our economy. It is when your economy is strong that you will be able to dictate to the world what you want. I still remember, when India had liberalized, I heard from someone where Dr. Singh had said, Dr. Manmohan Singh, former Prime Minister, who is now passed away, he had said, let these people invest in India and then we will dictate terms to them.
Oh, brilliant.
Okay.
That's
let their FII, let their FDI come into India. Let them set up factories in India. They want to earn profit of us. No, it's not us who want to earn profit from them.
Interesting. I have a lot of questions on this, but I think we'll deal with this later on another episode on the local politics of
local politics. We'll discuss it later.
Yes.
So now, what do you need to do? What do you see? What is the problem currently facing? Again, we're back to geoeconomics, where we started. Okay. So what do we need to do about the local economy? You need to boost consumption. The consumption in Indian economy is slowing down.
Yeah.
There are HNIs which are fleeing India. The lower ones are getting the free rations and all that stuff. So they are taken care of. Ayushman Yojana, whatever they're getting. I'm not even, trying to contest whether it's right or not. I leave the judgment to people, right?
Yes.
The middle ones are the tax-paid. The tax-paying middle class is the one which is being screwed.
Right? Yes, that is true. There has been a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise.
Lot of noise. And also, let me not make, the biggest barometer for any country's economy is the FMCG companies. Because people can stop traveling in air. People can stop traveling, going in hotels, eating in restaurants, ordering from Zomato or Swiggy, but people cannot stop consuming daily essential item and foodstuffs. They cannot cut down their budgets on their essential kitchen supplies. Yeah. So when you had companies like HUL in quarter 3 last year saying that it is the first time we are seeing negative returns in decades.
Yes, including ITC also, including Tata's also,
Yes. Tata Consumer, Nestle, Asian Paint, everyone is saying that there is a slowdown, rural demand that fell. And the government of the day ignored, which is why they paid the price in 2024 election. Their seats got reduced in the rural areas, not in the urban areas.
Not in the urban areas, yeah, because absolutely, sir, I agree. I mean, so for India, it's economy.
Right? You need to, what do you need to do? You need to boost manufacturing, electronic manufacturing, mid-scale, small, mid-scale assembly and manufacturing of electronic products. Right? There are so many PLI schemes which this government has done, which is doing a fabulous job.
Yeah, which is doing well, yeah.
The government has to boost renewable energy because India is a power deficit country. We need, we need a lot more power for our industrial base to grow, for our manufacturing base to grow, and which means we need to free up our resources. We need to send the households on renewable alternate energy, right? Meanwhile, for our net zero emissions. So you have to go on green hydrogen, you have to go on solar, you have to go on wind power. We need not care what Donald Trump's done on renewable energy. Our own 140 crore people in India are themselves enough to sustain the renewable energy needs.
Oh, so true, absolutely. And I think we have done fabulous job in the renewable energy sector.
Absolutely.
Achieving targets beforehand. Contributing much more money as compared to other countries.
True.
And doing well in other countries as well when it comes to investments in the energy sector.
Correct. And also, apart from this, you will also need to, manufacturing renewable energy. You will also need to do tech innovation. That will be taken off by the private companies. And then you need to do defense indigenization, which has been woefully slow. Over a decade, no new aircraft has been inducted. Right.
So I think, and that is, and it's very interesting, sir, that when it comes to the 3 branches of the military, 3 branches of the army, it is the Air Force which is sort of not able to use their capability, but Army and the Navy, in fact, the Navy is doing fantastic. They're churning out
absolutely
ships, submarines, destroyers, everything.
Now with the detentive with China and probably a back channel understanding with Pakistan or line of control, India has a godsend opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I want to touch on that because there is something which is we can use to enhance our capabilities.
Yes. Increase your capacity, take your economy higher because there is no conflict on the horizon for next 2-3 years, right? So,
true.
Take your economy higher, take your economic base higher, increase the per capita income, reduce taxes, put more income into people's hands, reduce the interest rate. If you invest 1 penny into people will give you back 3x returns. But if you go the China way, where you will keep on building infra, which will only degrade with years, which is also not of good quality, by the way. Take a shoddy infra. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Right? True. Yes, there are issues, and a lot of economists have come forward saying that like Modi 2.0's focus on infra is not going to benefit this government at all, because they're creating infra where there is no need at all. It has to be used, and it is being unused, so it will degrade, as you said. It will degrade.
It will degrade. This is exactly how China did. It thought it could it could create infrastructure, ghost cities,
Yeah.
flyovers, in high speed rail network, rather
And to
than
show, like we have done so well.
swanky
Yeah,
cities and
swanky
everything.
cities, better than European standards, better than American
Standards,
standards.
right? But what? At what cost?
At
Where
what
your
cost?
where your debt to GDP ratio is 290%.
Oh my God,
This
that will
is
kill them.
crazy. This is
That will
going to
kill them.
this is twice than even the debt which even America has.
Yeah, yes,
Right,
it's
right.
true, so true.
So the Chinese are not in a sweet position. Their economy is slowing down. Virtually, they are being artificially boosting up is going on at this minute to
Yes,
to keep them. So to make sure that we do not go the China way, we India has a robust population where our demographic dividend is going to give us return for next 20-30 years, and
true.
we also have a kind of uh, a more youth population, unlike Korea, Japan, or China. we
Yes,
also we also have amazing natural resources to deal with it, an agriculture base, an industrial base, a manufacturing base, and probably focus more on skilled workforce, which can do wonders. Only
wonders.
problem is we just need to take the regulatory and the tax barrier of the bureaucracy down to
Yeah.
enable that and unleash the animal spirits.
Well, sir, I hope government do that in this upcoming budget. I mean, there are a lot of expectations. Uh,
I am literally telling you, we stand at the cusp of the moment of a golden opportunity. If we do
I,
not, this next couple of months will, the policy next couple of months till March, April will decide whether we bite the bullet and we take the other opportunity, we relax the curve, we give some money, we give some money back to the people to spend.
because, yeah, to
Okay,
spend, yeah.
and we give more impetus on manufacturing, defense industrialization, so that the country can rise, the per capita income can rise, and we reach that stage in next 4, 5, 7 years where no power can threaten us or take us down.
Take us down. Yes, there could be a strategic partnership where our interests converge on certain things. But sorry, we are not going to be a Vasa.
But if we do not do that, then the ship would have sailed on India's story once again. And
Once again, yeah.
I really hope that does not happen.
Yeah, true, sir. We also hope that, our leaders
Now,
will realize it and,
I
uh,
really
you
hope.
know,
I really
but
hope.
but just last remarks on sir's participation of Silicon Valley in American politics and their 100% backing to Trump 2.0. What is your analysis of it?
Okay. Now this is a very interesting question. Trump, and it's a historic, it's a fact which I have written on my blog as well. People can read it. I've written a
Yeah,
couple of articles on Trump administration, how this new GOP came into being. Since there are two figures, basically Musk and Peter Thiel, right?
yeah,
So they are like a kind of Silicon Valley tech czars who control SpaceX, who control NASA, I'm not, no, sorry, not NASA, SpaceX. Even Musk can recently acquire Twitter. He might
yeah.
also acquire one or two more companies. Tesla obviously is his own company. But the root is somewhere in PayPal, when these two people, Thiel and Musk, they were together, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
Thiel formed his own company called Palantir, which was helped by the CIA's venture firm InQtel,
Yes, yes.
right?
I mean, it's an open fact.
It's an
Everybody
open.
knows. Yeah,
Everybody
how
knows it.
Palantir became big.
And let's be very frank about it. Could SpaceX have gone that way had NASA not helped? No.
Absolutely, sir. True.
Could
No,
could Palantir had grown so big had CIA not helped? No.
no.
Could Starlink have grown? Starlink is also Pentagon is paying or hiring Starlink in Ukraine. Could America would have continued this war in Ukraine against Russia without the help of Starlink? No. Right. So there are certain hidden elements to this partnership between Silicon Valley, the techno libertarians, who want to evolve humanity into a different kind of, where there are neural links, there is chipping, where there is a kind of a different imagination of humanity.
Different order altogether. I mean, the way,
so different. Do you remember, so this way, and it was this Peter Thiel, who funded the American Vice President Senate Ohio race in 2022, the GOP midterms. It's an open fact, right?
Yeah, it's an open fact. Everybody knows it.
Yeah. So the American GOP, the midterm funding came by the Silicon Valley. It was Musk, it was Elon, it was Thiel who got the Trump campaign back on track, gave it a new technofied look, right? To make it more appealable to the American public, which is why it gained more traction. But it brings along with it certain agendas of tech in Silicon Valley, which raises some, questions in my mind.
Yeah.
Right? Now, on this, I would also, like to quote a very wonderful thing, which you remember President Eisenhower had mentioned about military-industrial complex and the peril of it.
Oh yes, it's a very famous quote of him.
Yes, okay. It's a very famous quote of President Eisenhower. If you can find it, let me also just check. President Eisenhower. Okay, here it is. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will always persist. D. Eisenhower in his farewell speech. Guess what? The Biden, Mr. Joseph Biden, in his retirement speech, spoke something similar, and I quote. This was just a few days back, right?
Yes. Please do.
I want to warn the country of something that gives me great concern, and that is a dangerous concern, that of concentration of power in the hands of few ultra wealthy people. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens the entire democracy, our basic for rights and freedom, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. And then he talks about technocratic, elite, virtually, right?
Virtually, yes.
Silicon Valley elite.
Elite.
That how these people have taken over governmental roles, policy dictums, and running the show from behind. Virtually now it's out in the open. So he tried to model himself eerily and prophetically on Eisenhower's military-industrial complex or Silicon Valley, technocratic oligarchy. He's saying
oligarchy. Yes, and he has used this term. It's crazy. I mean,
it's crazy. And you know what? What is the biggest hypocrisy about it? It is the same very Biden administration who asked Meta to silence COVID critics and vaccine critics. So much so that Mark Zuckerberg of Meta had to go on Joe Rogan's show recently, and he said that the White House was telling us, censor these people out. These people on social media were criticizing not only the mandates, but exposing the big science on the origin of virus from the labs, the Wuhan lab and everything. They were censored due to the policies. And this Biden administration now has goals to talk about freedom and democracy. And oligarchy.
And techno-oligarchy.
Techno-oligarchy. Till the time these oligarchs, they, went along with you, they were good. Now they are with the other side, so they are bad.
True, sir. Human, we are complex creatures.
Yeah. So it's kind of a very weird place we are in. Yes. The world is going to go under huge transformation. There will be restructuring of global supply chain. There will be geo-economic issues by trade wars, tech wars, tariff wars, and then the Federal Reserve, the weaponization of dollar, the alternate currencies which are going to emerge, bilateral trade in non-dollar terms is going to go up ultimately because of the US demands, right? So there's going to be a lot of churn from now on till the end of this decade. this will provide a lot of opportunity for and challenges for countries like India, and specifically people in India, because economies are going to be influenced, and markets are going to get influenced. At the same time, we have the golden chance to restructure our economy, our tax philosophy, our economic philosophy, and spur India to a position where no power on this planet, be it America, be it China, can dictate terms to us.
Yes.
And that should be the one crystal motto in frame of every Indian. And I believe if anyone, and I with a lot of stress, I say, if anyone can do this in next 4 or 5 years, it is this government under Narendra Modi who can do it.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
I really hope they bite the bullet, they go for the reforms, they do what is required, because this opportunity is not to be missed.
And ultimately, I think this is last term. So why to be skeptical, or why to have this fear of losing the power as well? Because ultimately, the country, the nation, the people will benefit in the longer term. India will benefit in the longer term, or the upcoming global chaos from the next decade.
See the world is anyway going towards chaos. You will have problem with Iran, you will have problem with Venezuela, you will have oil problem, you will have currency problem, you will have trade war. The world is anyway going to chaos. So what is the best for India? Best for India is to bank upon Indian people itself. Get the consumption story back on track. Let the people of India drive its economy, and not give it to corporation, not make it for a few, where 5 years down the lane, we become a service backend, a frontline ally, and an economy where there are only few winners.
Yes, true.
That we must avoid at any cost. Trust the Indian people, spend money, invest in them, invest in their skills, give them more per capita, give them more savings, reduce the tax base, the tax compliance increases not by increasing taxation, but by decreasing taxation, giving them deductions, giving them exemptions, incentivizing people to pay more tax. That if you declare more tax, I'm going to give you this X rebate or this deduction, like simplistic measures. I tell you how. You don't need to give much. Make health insurance a deduction, where or make education a deduction. I'm telling you, you will free up significant capital of a middle class family in India from bearing, because a middle class family in India is one medical bill away from bankruptcy.
Absolutely, so true.
Education, health, you save so much of money. Education is so difficult these days, in schools and colleges. If you can't subsidize them, at least give them that option to claim a rebate to a certain extent of their income tax. And that would give more money into the hands of people, that will spur more consumption on discretionary spend, and the Indian economy will automatically chuggle.
Yes, true, sir. True. And I guess I take this as a concluding remarks on our conversation, on today's conversation.
Like Trump 2.2, provides challenges across the world, but India is in a sweet spot.
Yeah. We better utilize it. We better
utilize it. We have a detente with China. So we can leverage that out with the Russians, with the Chinese, with the Americans. We are in a very, very sweet spot to do it. And let's hope we make the best for it, our country.
Oh, absolutely, sir. Absolutely. I really wish saner minds will prevail in the government. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
For allowing me to host you on this episode 1 of Niti Shastra. And we thank you, the audience, to chime in and give their valuable time to this episode of Niti Shastra. We will keep bringing more episodes for you in times to come.
Of course.
So do follow Niti Shastra and Navroop Sir on Substack, Spotify, Apple Podcast, X.com, and me also. It's Vidura on X. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you so much. Lovely having you.